All right, so today is still the second one I do today. I'm catching up a little bit. So again, I want to talk about an article. One is an article that a client of mine sent to me, and as I mentioned before, those of you who are listening on a podcast rather than watching a YouTube video, I'll try to describe this and of course put the links in the show notes. So this was in a newspaper, the Ottawa Citizen. The title of it is Fitness, Here's How You Can Get More Muscle in Less Time. So one of my clients pointed this out to me because she said, hey, this is an article that basically reinforces what you're telling us all the time. So it is article has some good points, but it also has some things that I need to take exception with and to correct. So the article again, written by Jill Barker, September 11, 2022. So just about 3 days ago or 4 days ago. So it starts off by showing short, efficient, high intensity interval training workouts are all the rage. And rightfully so. So first of all, the article goes on to talk about how you can do strength training once or twice a week and get good results. But it starts off by referring to high intensity interval training, often used as an acronym HIIT, as opposed to what is often used for what I do, which is HIT, high intensity training. Although I'm not a big fan of any of these labels, but anyways, they're mixing up the things. So it says, with a lack of time, often cited as the biggest barrier to regular exercise habit, knowing that an effective workout can be done quickly makes staying in shape that much easier. But is there a time-saving equivalent when it comes to improving muscular strength? So, all right, so I stand a little bit corrected there. So in the weight room, training load is defined by the number of sets and repetitions per exercise for muscle group. So training load, I haven't heard that term before, but number of sets, repetitions per exercise, or muscle group. Well, without intensity, number of sets and repetitions is of little value. And of course, I'm going to talk about intensity and how it is usually defined. But the debate surrounding the optimum number of sets and reps needed to increase strength is wide-ranging, with opinions offered by just about anyone who has ever picked up a dumbbell. Even the experts, another term I don't like, experts. A little bit of an aside here. Lately I watched an interview with Joe Walsh of the Eagles, guitar player, and he talked about how when he first started out, people were sort of putting him on a pedestal, and he was feeling real self-conscious because he secretly thought he didn't know what he was doing. And his quote was, I soon realized that if you act like you know what you're doing, pretty soon people think you know what you're doing. Well, I think a lot of people have become experts, quote unquote, simply because they act like they know what they're doing. They say things with confidence, they assert them as facts, and people just buy into it because, hey, that person has some credential or just seems to, point that out. Again, don't think of myself as an expert. I think of myself as a student who's continually learning, making additional distinctions, but always open to learning new things. So it says, are high loads, heavy weight, and low reps and sets the best option? Are more reps and sets the key to more strength gain? So again, these debates go on, they miss a lot of points. So it goes on to say, in fact, there are plenty of options when it comes to manipulating specific training variables to increase strength, though not all training programs have the same potential to realize significant gains. But it's always good to understand the parameters within which improvement can be achieved, including being aware of the minimum effort needed for your goals. So here they're starting to get to the point. That way you can get in and out of the gym quickly when time is tight, knowing that even though your workout is short, it's still effective. And since strength training is considered important to maintaining peak athletic performance and maintaining muscle mass is a key component in healthy aging, efficiency in the weight room is important for Canadians of all ages. So a little comment here, maintaining muscle mass, obviously strength training Maintaining peak athletic performance, yes, but for most people, and I did a previous thing here, you might watch it after, where the people who read these kind of articles are usually already doing exercise, and some of them are going to be athletes. But most people, peak athletic performance is, I won't say of little value, but really shouldn't be the main reason they're working out. Because people are looking for peak athletic performance to win this year's championship or their next meet, are often doing things which may or may not be beneficial to that, because there's so many myths going around, but also in many cases they are doing things that will not serve them well in the long term into their old age, as most retired athletes, after they're retired, have all kinds of injuries to deal with. Anyways, digress a little bit. So, understanding the value of establishing a standardized minimum training dose necessary to increase strength, a group of UK researchers took on the task. So there's a link here. I'm going to check the link and see. So the authors, okay, so two of the authors I do know, James Fisher and James Steele. Matter of fact, I've done a podcast with one of them. So this is what I thought it was going to be. So the optimal training practice for anyone who wants to get the best possible results in the least amount of time. So it says here, the minimum effective training dose required to increase one repetition maximum in strength, and trained individuals may provide useful knowledge to translate and improve current exercise guidelines for health as well as for athletes and coaches. So one repetition maximum standard measure of strength determined by the most weight lifted in a single attempt, which the researchers used to gauge baseline strength and any improvements acquired through training. Training load was measured by the total number of repetitions completed per sessions and per week, with most of the reviewed studies lasting 8 to 10 weeks. All of the study subjects were men with previous weight training experience and focused on three of the most popular exercises: bench press, squat, and deadlift. So these were powerlifters. One rep max is an unfortunate measure that's used, and a percentage of your one rep max is used to determine intensity. The reason I say it's unfortunate is because, first of all, attempting to lift a weight one time, the maximum amount you can lift, is inherently dangerous, because you're doing something where you're pushing yourself way more than anyone should push themselves in one short repetition. Form will suffer. And also the percentage of one repetition maximum that is often used to determine intensity is also irrelevant, because what happens is that, if you're doing a smaller percentage but you keep lifting it till you can't lift it anymore, then that's much more intense than if you use a higher percentage of your one rep max but only do 2 or 3 reps when you would have been capable of more. That's far less intense, and yet they use the percentage of your one rep max as a measure of intensity, which it clearly is not. So it says suboptimal increased muscular strength is a single set. The research did the minimum needed to realize a significant but suboptimal increased muscular strength for squat is a single set of 6 to 12 repetitions with loads ranging from 70 to 85%, 2 to 3 times a week for 8 to 12 weeks. So significant but suboptimal. So they also know the importance of maintaining a high intensity of effort, which they suggest is reaching momentary failure, going back. So thanks James Fisher and James Steele for pointing that out. Again, significant but suboptimal. I will come back to that. In the weight room, lifting to failure means stopping when you no longer lift a weight in good form. In other words, the ideal load is heavy enough that by the last repetition you have reached exhaustion to the point that you can't perform another one. Okay, good so far, good part of the article. Knowing the strength gains can be achieved in as few as 6 repetitions makes it easier to ensure you're as strong as you need to be for health and performance. So the number of repetitions here is pretty much irrelevant as long as you go to failure. and that the number of repetitions is high enough that you're not obliged to use a weight that is so heavy that is potentially dangerous. Whether your goal is to retain muscle as you age or improve your time on the bike, in a 10K run, or in the pool, a full body weight room doesn't require a big time commit. Choose 5 to 6 exercises that target the maximum number of muscles and perform 6 to 12 repetitions per exercise, taking care to lift enough weight that your muscles are sufficiently challenged. The workout should take about 30 minutes, give or take. All right, so far so good. Here's the part where I take exception. It's worth repeating that this is the minimum amount of work needed to increase strength, and that more severe sets and heavier weights may lead to added gains. So point out here, it says more sets and heavier weight. So first of all, just more in general, we're talking about more of anything, is, and it says may lead to added gains. They don't even know that. And I would say that it probably doesn't. But heavier weight, again, it doesn't matter as long as you're going to fit it. But if time is tight and if you repeat it twice a week, this abbreviated workout will not only build muscle, it will also make the tasks of everyday life feel easier and make you more resilient to fatigue in the gym, around the house, and at work. You'll also like the way the extra muscle looks. Not a bad return for 30 minutes in the gym a couple times a week. So let me go on here to see if there's more, or is that the end of it? Yeah, so that's the end of it. So any studies that show that additional volume create better results are very poorly performed at best. And even despite that, the difference is incredibly small. And of course, if they're measuring results based on 1 rep maximum, a big part of that can come very simply by practicing. If you're doing a certain weight and you're practicing lifting, you're getting better at the skill of lifting. Therefore, you may improve your 1 rep maximum, but that's not because you're stronger, it's because you've just gotten better at that particular exercise. Fact is that anything above the minimum amount required, I shouldn't start to sense what fact is, because now I'm doing what an accused of experts is. What makes the most sense to me is that doing anything beyond the minimum needed to create a stimulus that will allow you to adapt is going to be wasted effort at best, and all of it has a certain wear and tear on the body. The idea is to get as strong as possible by doing as little damage to the body as possible. And even if you could make the argument that you're going to create better progress doing something else, my question to you is, as long as you're progressing over time throughout a lifetime of training, you will get to where you need to get. And that is, of course, living a quality life well into your old age. Getting better progress faster is only important if you have a deadline, i.e. a weightlifting meet that you need to reach a certain max by that certain time, and that comes with skill and practice and things like that. For most people, it should be you're just trying to train for life. By that I mean for a lifetime, as in the time aspect of it, but also for just the daily activities of living that you want to be able to do unassisted, without a walker or other help, for as long as you can, including playing with your grandkids and enjoying the activities that you want to do for as long as you can. So, but having said that, I would argue that you will make better progress faster doing the least amount, because you're maximizing the other side of the equation, which is the recovery time between workouts, which is where the real progress is made, not during the gym, but the recovery time. And also, if you're minimizing the wear and tear on your body, you will spend less time injured and be able to train longer and maintain your gains over time. Anyways, that's it for now. Thank you for listening.